Welcome to our webinar today called Pitch Simulator. My name is Olivia, and I'm a senior marketing strategist here at impact.com. And my whole area of focus is creator growth and engagement, which is why I'm so incredibly excited to chat with these incredible industry experts today. We're going to walk through a real simulated creator pitch with a real brand and a talent manager. We're going to get all perspectives on this incredible a simulated scenario. Hopefully you will gain a whole bunch of actionable insights that you can take home and immediately implement on the marketing side if you're a marketer working for a brand, or certainly on the creator side if you are trying to land your next big brand collab. So that being said, I am so excited to welcome all of our panelists. I'd love to just take a quick moment and let everybody kind of introduce themselves so that you guys know who is joining us here today. So Johanna, if it's okay with you, I'd like to start with you.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Johanna Voss. I'm coming in live from Denver, Colorado today. I, as Olivia said, am an influencer talent manager. I have my own talent management agency representing men and women, many diverse creators, different walks of life, multi-generational. We tend to be in the content verticals of food, lifestyle, travel, as you'll see with Jessica, as well as some health and wellness types of brand collaboration. So I've been in this space for quite a long time. I've closed over $6 million worth of brand collaborations, and very excited to get into this nitty-gritty conversation about doing some pitching.
Fabulous. All right. Next up, Jessica, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jessica Serna. I live in Texas, and so I am a Texas-based content creator who focuses on lifestyle and generally Texas travel. So I built my niche on becoming an expert within the Texas space. But what is really cool about that, having defined that niche, is that when I've been able to get a very targeted audience, but also been able to work on things beyond Texas. So I've gotten to travel to Australia. I've gotten to work with some amazing food and beverage, lifestyle products, such a wide range by using my niche and using the brand story and tying it in with my niche to put together like a 360 picture. Gotten to work with many incredible people like Johanna, lots of different brands, and excited to share some of my insights.
Heck yeah. Really excited to see your pitch here in a couple of seconds. And next, we have two incredible representatives from Helix Sleep, the mattress company. So Taylor, Ava, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Thank you so much, Olivia. My name is Ava Cummings. I'm a New York City-based influencer marketer, and I currently work as a growth marketing senior specialist at 3Z Brands, which is a portfolio of direct-to-consumer sleep brands. And there I help to oversee influencer partnerships alongside Taylor for our Helix Sleep brand. I've been in the space for about 3 years now, and I'm so excited to be here today to share my insights from the brand side of things.
Hi guys, my name is Taylor Demolling. I'm a growth marketing manager overseeing influencer partnerships at 3Z. I've been in this space for about 4 years, and I work alongside Ava to manage creator campaigns for Helix Sleep. I don't want to speak for Ava, but I think the relationship building is really one of the things that we both enjoy most about this work that we do. So it's really exciting to be here connecting with and knowledge sharing with all these other great creators, managers, and just talented folks in the space.
100%. Thank you all for letting our viewers know a little bit about you so that they can really understand your perspective as we get into the pitch. So first, before we get into the pitch, I thought it'd be cool to kind of just walk through the process of how each of you kind of look at a pitch before we actually even look at a real example. So Johanna, since you have the widest kind of point of view being a talent manager, I'm interested to know, what kind of conversations did you have with Jessica in preparation for this? Are there any like key components that you recommended she hit on? And would you extend that to anybody in the audience? Would that be like, hey, make sure you have a media kit or send a work sample or whatever? What are kind of your top line recommendations?
Oh, yeah. Well, it goes without saying, I did not have to guide Jessica at all on this pitch other than just be another set of eyes and ears to look at it. She is quite well seasoned and is not her first rodeo. So you will get to see that magic very soon. But a couple takeaways are it's always great just to have some portfolio of work that you can reference, right? Brands want to see that they're not your first client, right? That you've done this before, that you have an understanding of how it works, and you've gone through sort of the mechanics of doing a partner collab to understand, the briefing and the messaging and all of that integration element. So whether you've done paid partnerships or unpaid, it doesn't matter, but whatever sort of portfolio of work, and then showcase it on a media kit. If you have a website, if you're able to pull together links, have that handy. And then also just have handy like your audience and who you do content through the eyes of. You'll hear Jessica in her pitch. She's doing it through the eyes of like, the reasoning why she wants to partner with Helix. Like, what's your reasoning? Why are you as a food creator wanting to partner with this brand? Like what, my audience is XYZ. And I know that they've been asking me for, quick and easy meals to get on the table in 10 minutes for a family. So that's who I'm speaking for when I, reach out and want to collab. So having that information really handy as well. Those are the two things. I got some more thoughts, but I'll let others chime in.
Okay. And Jessica, I'm interested to know, so I feel like mattresses especially are like a pretty high price point item that are leveraged in influencer marketing partnerships. Like obviously luxury brands, they have, even higher price points, but I know that this was kind of like a unique scenario for you to kind of wrap your mind around and think about as you were preparing this pitch. So if you had any like differences for how you approach this as you were preparing your pitch, just kind of like as a caveat, I think that'd be really interesting to know what your thought process was.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is, of course, talking about a product that I could probably step out and buy, walk out today and buy versus like a process like a mattress. One, I think there's several different processes that go in, and my goal always is for a paid collaboration, only because I think that gives me more flexibility to do something longer term. I think, especially because I am not a mattress reviewer, right? I'm a travel blogger. So what can I do? I can do one post and it'll reach my audience one time. And then it is now the brand and all of the other messaging to go and take those people who just got that one touch point and continue that. Or I can continue to be that funnel. And so for me, like with a higher price point, I'm really trying to, of course, if I want a mattress, there's something very simple, and there's a trade-off that's worth that as well, as just the value of work for there. So I would probably trade what was worth the value and based on my needs. But with the longer term is what I'm still going to go for, because it is an investment, and because because it's such a big investment, I'd rather it be something that I'm consistently sharing, because a mattress is something that you use every day in your life. It's not like a general just buyer, right? Like I will walk into the store, buy one hair product one day, and then 2 weeks later decide to try another hair product. Whereas the mattress, like you're on it for 10 years, and you're like talking to your friends, oh, what like mattress do you like? Like it's this big thing. And so that's what I'm really using in trying to formulate this as more than a one-time project, because also I don't know when I accept this one project and then next thing I know, 5 months later, another mattress company is coming at me. It always happens that way. We can actually talk about that with luggages. So I really need a new luggage set. Held on. Finally agreed to a free luggage trade, great quality. A month later, got a high-paying luggage campaign with multiple things. And so I don't want to be wishy-washy on luggages, although there are also ways that you can put in, like comparing the different differences, the price points, all those things. All that to say, it's a complicated approach that has to do with your goals, your interests. I think long-term partnerships are really valuable, but I understand as a marketing company, that can be something that's very difficult to plan for long-term.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I'm very gratified to hear that is your approach as a creator, because from, our perspective here at Impact, we've done a lot of research on this, and research shows like across the board repeatedly that longer term partnerships yield better and better results. So like, approaching that as a creator with that being your like game plan long term, I think is 100% the right approach. And we try to continue to evangelize that on the brand side too. Like, hey, when you're hiring a creator, you should be thinking about them. I like to liken it to a creator is almost like an employee at your company. And you want them to understand what their career trajectory is going to be. So it's not just, oh, I hire you for this one thing, you get this one paycheck. It's okay, what's next? What's down the line? Where can I grow? So yeah, love that.
Yes, I love hearing that. I always think about that, right? If you judge a creator on their one post versus if you judge an employee on their one day, it's going to look so much different versus, you know, a whole lifespan of that and you dealing with algorithms, all that stuff. If you know what an average is and you're going to try to hit that average, you're going to get that opportunity to actually hit that average, and then hopefully get a lot of content thrown in extra because there's more opportunities to integrate it into your daily life.
Yeah. Before we dive into the pitch, Ava, Taylor, I just wanted to know, in a couple quick sentences, what does the discovery process usually look like for you at Helix Leap? Like we have set up this scenario where a creator is approaching you, but I'm assuming that's not always the case. So is there a good mix of inbound inquiries from creators? Are you doing a lot of research? When you're doing research, are you doing it like on Instagram or on TikTok or wherever, or are you using a tool? Just like kind of like very broad strokes, how you find creator partners.
That's a really good question. I can jump in here and just, I guess in terms of our research process, it's really helpful when we do get inbound outreach and we're getting, some amount of materials from creators. Media kits, rate cards are all great, but honestly, even just like an email with the bulleted list, and key links is effective. A lot of the main details that we are looking at when we are doing outbound research or when we're sourcing creators on our own is a lot of what we'll want to see inbound from creators. So it's finding out what your primary platforms are, your follower count, your average viewership count, your audience demos. That's really helpful. Rates when applicable. And work samples are really great. That is one big asset of when we're having inbound leads come to us, creators that want to work together, is the work samples. We do like to do our own research when we're considering working with a creator, but the samples of the work folks have done in the past is really awesome. And if you can take that a step further and show like the goals and outcomes of that sponsorship, that's really helpful, especially if you work together on a recurring basis. So it's a little bit more inbound, but that's a lot of what we're looking for when we're kind of like coming from creative perspective. So if somebody's sending that to us, it's even better. But I'll pass it over to Ava for thoughts on the sourcing side in case you have anything to add.
Yeah, I was just going to say to answer your last question, Olivia, about if we use like tools to help us source or not. While we do have access to platforms that kind of help us see creators' past sponsorship history and find creators based on like certain content verticals, we transparently still find a lot of our creators through kind of more old-fashioned methods, whether that be, friends, family, or coworkers saying, hey, I follow this creator and I love them. I think they'd be a great fit for the brand. Or seeing kind of like which creators are friends with current partners of ours and seeing if we can work with them to kind of like expand and further promote our product within that creators like universe, or just doing research on our like own into different creators that happen to be in certain content verticals that we're interested in. We do a lot of it pretty manually still. But yeah, just kind of tie it all up back to Taylor's point. It is helpful for us to receive these emails from creators because it's like they're falling into our laps as opposed to us having to kind of work to find people who could be good fits for the brand.
100%. And with that, I think it's time for us to actually get into the pitch. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, who has put together this incredible presentation that we're going to screen share for you here in a second. And Jessica, I know there are multiple slides in your presentation, so whenever it's time for the next slide, don't be shy about just saying, hey, next slide, and we'll move it along for you. So our colleague Charlotte, yeah, we got it. All right, here you go. Jessica, take it away.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, creating your pitch, starting off, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so really what it came down to was doing my research. So I tried to put myself into the perspective of someone who was looking for a mattress, of course, and choosing Helix. And one of the first things I'm doing is just really getting into my research to understand where this brand is. And then we're looking into the intros and the hooks, trying to really get them interested in clicking on it, introducing myself, relating to the brand. Like it's not, trying to make it about them and what I can offer. Like, hey, I'm here. But that relation, and then hopefully that call to action and closing with just a nice ending. So go to the next part. So for me, first thing I wanted to do is really research Helix, knowing about the brand, knowing about their competitive edge, what alignment that I'm going with. So I went through their website, I went through different reviews, I watched some YouTube videos, I looked at some comparisons. This is me just really making sure that I can understand the brand so that when I'm sending this pitch, they don't think I just pitched 20 different mattress brands, which Helix is actually part of a bigger mattress brand. So that could even be like embarrassing depending if the marketers are working on the same team, having like pitched a very similar pitch to like 10 of the different partners that are under it. I'm looking at their socials to see what kind of content they are creating. And I'm also looking at their the ads that they've already done to see where I might fit into this. And so when I was researching this, I think this is on the next slide actually. Yeah, so when I'm researching this, I'm coming across this. I'm looking at some of the special things that they have. For me personally, what I really connected with was the side. I'm about to sell y'all on Helix Mattress. Get ready. I really like their science-driven techniques, having clinical studies. I thought that was a really great thing because we can always rely on fancy smorgasbords words and leading into, well, people felt better, but they actually had science-driven facts stayed on their site, which I thought was really great. The sleep trials, the break-in time, all of this stuff. I was also just going to see what other users had. And I wanted to make sure I knew the brand really well so I could interpret that into my concept for them, but also to make it very clear to the brand that I am not, like, I'm not just here sending out a mass email. I'm carefully crafting and thinking about what I can offer to the brand. And so the next one, then if you just want to go even further, I've looked up where they had them. And so we have right here different areas where I could go in if I, wanted to try out this mattress, or maybe, hopefully before maybe I've even tried this mattress. And that's why I decided to reach out with them in the first place. My friend said it was really good. I was looking at mattresses and visited a mattress store. I could talk to that, talking again about all these different things are just all things that I could include to really show that I understand the brand. Next slide. Okay, now I'm looking at the ad research because I want to know, am I a good fit? And then in this case, maybe I'm not a good fit, but I'm going to really try to show them I'm a good fit. So what I'm doing is I actually Googled Helix Sleep ad and Helix Sleep hashtag ad. And so this helped me see what was coming up. I was seeing a lot of sponsored blog posts. I was seeing a lot from like mattress companies. I was seeing podcasts that weren't necessarily sleep related, but they were just constant podcasts. I was finding studies on what was working for them and some YouTube videos. Then I went to Instagram. I really didn't see anything recent. Could be because the search didn't find it. Could be they just haven't done that. But I'm kind of taking that as they don't really do that. TikTok, I also didn't really see too much except for a sleep reviewer. I saw a lot on YouTube, so my guess was that any of the stuff I saw on social media was probably cross-posted to YouTube. So now I even know what they're doing, and so I'm going to try to pitch that with that information. But I know they're not just like handing out mattresses to everyone. There's different strategies for different mattress companies, and some of them it really is like they're just trying to get their name out there as much as possible, and they'll give anyone a free mattress, which is not a bad strategy. That's just not Helix's strategy. And so I've got to come in a little bit stronger in this case. So next slide. And these are some of the things I saw. So podcast advertising, lots of YouTube reviews. And so this was the information that I was using to calculate it. And the next slide. So now I've got all my information. It is time to put together the email. I still get nervous about this. Next. Okay. So I'm just giving an introduction to myself as far as who I am. I try to keep it really brief. I'm Jessica, my Curly Adventures, throwing out some big numbers. And I own an ice cream themed Airbnb because it's going to come in later. And I think it's like a very interesting hook. I usually will link to either my social media or my press page. I actually chose, in this case, to link to my press page because I think the numbers just were more there. Because if I say I have 1 million followers and you go to my Instagram, you're like, well, she only has 230,000. I don't know how many I have, something like that. So at least I can like break it down for them pretty quickly without overwhelming them. I've got 200 something on Instagram. I got 500 on TikTok. I got this many on YouTube. All these things. I'm like, it's very put together. And then the next one. Okay. So here I am talking about how I can relate to the brand. Again, I'm really trying to show them why I'm a good fit, because this is a little bit different than a typical pitch. So I was wanting to talk about, of course, I travel, sleep in a lot of beds. I think that's where my expertise comes in. Things that I really think that I can lean towards is enjoying clinical science-based products, just seeing how they have been voted that different way. And so I really want to highlight this when I hopefully work with them. So those are the kind of things, and it shows that I've done some of the research. And next. Okay. So again, I'm also doing a lot of this because I see a lot of you do a lot of YouTube ads. This is because I want to show them I've done my research, even though I am not necessarily really the right fit. And I say that I'm not the right fit because all the ads that I've seen before have typically been from podcasters and bed reviewers. There's possibly other advertising methods that they've gone through that I hadn't seen in my research. There's not like a foolproof way to see all the ways a brand has done advertising, but I'm really leaning into what I saw them very heavy on. And so I wanted to highlight still the YouTube opportunity. So I'm not a YouTube vlog, or I'm not a YouTube bed home reviewer, but I did see some lifestyle YouTubers and vloggers doing that. So I thought it'd be really great to put them right in the middle of my travel video and be like, oh, I can't wait to get home and sleep in my beautiful Helix mattress. It's like traveling all the time. And then it's getting those people interested. I think that's where my value is, in that putting content through multiple times, and also using like my audience size. Now there's other things if you don't have such a large audience size, or you're trying to pitch for something else, there's so many things, like I said, like having multiple avenues, creating different UGC, if you've seen them do that, highlighting some of the other things that you can do. You really want to lean into your strengths and your unique qualifiers. So I'm not a sleep mattress expert reviewer, but I focus on travel, and I can talk about the things that I care about. I can talk about it regularly. I can integrate it pretty easily, and I can integrate it often. But I also wanted to offer something different that I didn't see them have and that I thought would be interesting. And that was my ice cream themed pretzels. So, of course, they're trying to sell mattresses. So a lot of people want to try the mattress. And I thought, why not just throw out there and see if they want to put a mattress in our house? And then people can obviously sleep on it, experience it, and then we can provide a link to book after. So really just getting creative of what I can do, not just I'm going to post on Instagram, but really showing what my plan is. And of course, I think it also shows that I have plenty of ideas, and I could even add that if you don't like these ideas, let me know. I'll send you 10 more or something, be ready with the ideas that you want, be ready to be creative. Even if those aren't the right ones, at least it shows that, again, you're thinking specifically how they could fit and implement, especially if you're doing something different than you've typically seen them done for advertising. Next one. Okay. Now I am talking about my call to action. So I really want to hop on a phone call. We don't always get lucky with this, but this is a great opportunity to get to actually meet face to face. I think this is where relationships really blossom, because you kind of get a 2D interaction over the phone, but when you're able to talk to the person, ask questions, you can really learn a lot more about them. And then also maybe just getting to learn more about what their goals are. Even if there's, so maybe if this isn't the right thing, maybe I'll get lucky and be like, okay, well, we're not really doing this. We're focusing on this later. And then it's like, I can either be like, actually, I have this opportunity, or thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate this. And then maybe 6 months later, I started a podcast and I reach out to them. So it's more in line with what they're looking for, but really just kind of ending with something strong that you're able to follow up on. And then I think there might be one more, but I think that, oh yeah, okay. So then this is what I end with. So I've got more information on myself. That way it's kind of lower. It's got all the information, but it didn't overwhelm them in the beginning because they're going through a lot of emails, but I want it to be very digestible. So we've got different campaigns, we've got different reviews, we've got again, all my social data and website data. You can see what I do. That way you get a good picture. I didn't throw it all out them at first. That way they could get into like what was most important. And then of course my media kit is there as well. And then next. And then again, there's my media kit. So they have that option as well. If they want to save it for something else. This is all extra things. I'm not overwhelming them in the beginning with all this different information where they just can't handle at the moment. They've got their pitch to look at, and then they have this to reference after to see if it's a good fit, or they can scroll really quick and see, okay, these are our followers, these are our demographics. Immediately, something we might be interested in, immediately, this isn't our vibe. But very easy for them to reference, but also not throw it all out them at once. And then next. Okay, so this is now my email that I put together, all that together. You can see it right there. I said brand done because it's a brand. Anyways, play on words. Fun to throw in little jokes if you can. But really, again, it's a decent email, but it gets to the point pretty quickly. And then again, really quick links. So my Curly Adventures right there, you see links so they can go and click immediately to my profile that has all my different information. That's very quick and easy to see. Next. And then the part that I don't always like to do. I know as creatives, a lot of times, like the last thing we want to do is all this, okay, word for word, did I spell anything wrong? Are there grammar checks? Because again, if you're running a campaign and you have grammar checks in your email, they might be worried about how you're going to pay attention to details when it comes to the actual brand campaign. Awful situations, you send a brand, hey Helix, I want to work with you, but you accidentally put it in for brand, and that's embarrassing. You don't want to do it. Make sure you just review it again. Don't be afraid to send it to a friend, someone else. Review it a couple times. I think each time you send a pitch, it gets better and better and better. Same thing with your media kit. Like there's always room for improvement. For able to do that. But don't be afraid to run it through ChatGPT and see if it has any suggestions. Don't write your pitch on ChatGPT, but feel free to run it through for anything that might be helpful. And then next. Oh, and I forgot, I like to connect with LinkedIn after I send that pitch as well. So, and that's my pitch.
Well done. I absolutely love that. I have a lot of thoughts, but people aren't here to hear what I have to think about it. So let's first send it over to Ava and Taylor from Helix. What do you think? What are your top line responses? And yeah, I don't know, just dive in.
Jessica, I just loved your pitch so much, as did Taylor. It just, was so great. I think there's so many things I personally like about it, but the thing I like the most is just how like research based it is. It's really clear upon reading your email that you spent like such a good deal of time looking into our brand and seeing what types of partnerships we usually run. And to your point, I think creators oftentimes make the mistake of just sending these bulk outreach emails to several brands at once, not personalizing it to the brand at all. And it really shows to us when a creator does that due diligence, that extra, goes kind of the extra mile in just doing that research ahead of time. So I absolutely love that. And I also love that you provided a really clear pitch for content, that you suggested that we partner over YouTube and that you could further promote the product by having our mattresses featured in your Airbnb. I love that you kind of came up with that clear vision, because as a brand, it just makes it that much easier for us to be like, well, that sounds great, and kind of just like see where things go from there, as opposed to making us kind of figure out what that partnership would look like. And then as far as suggestions go, I mean, God, it was so hard to like think about pretty much anything that I could give you as feedback, Jessica. It was really just so good. I think one thing that I thought when I initially read the pitch was just that, unfortunately, just due to how busy our day-to-days are, it is difficult to jump on a call, which you kind of alluded to when you were presenting before. So for us, that's kind of a tough sell. That being said, like, I appreciate that you offered that. And I think that also just shows the creator, like, your willingness to really make it a partnership. But yeah, that was probably one point of feedback. And then another is just that sometimes I find it helpful when creators, when they're reaching out, when they offer to present their media kit details in whatever way is most easily digestible for the brand. So oftentimes we're getting so many pitches kind of sent our way that it can be difficult, and it sounds silly, but to even like click into a media kit and have to kind of search for those details, as opposed to a creator just kind of giving like high level bullet points of like the details we would usually look for. And I think just by maybe asking that at the end and being like, hey, what's the best way I can present this information? That would be super helpful for me, because all I would have to do then is write back to you and be like, your pitch looks great, but I do kind of top line want to know, certain demographic details, certain follower details, that kind of stuff. And then from there, you could respond. But anyway, those are my only 2 points of feedback. With that, I'm going to pass things over to Taylor, because I'm sure she has some compliments and thoughts as well.
Honestly, all compliments. Echoing Ava, really excellent job with this pitch. This is the kind of outreach we love to receive. It's really well researched. It's friendly. You gave us a good sense of who you are as a creator, which I think, kind of goes to Joanna's earlier point. And most importantly, it's not overloading us with information or like making any demands by being like, I'm moving and would love you to send us a mattress. Like, you were just like, here's how we can collaborate together. So excellent job. Some of the positives that really stood out to me, just how perceptive you are about the kind of sponsorships we run. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know that that's something that like everyone is thinking through when they're reaching out to brands. But you've mentioned like some brands go for more of like a brand awareness play. They're just blanket sending product to literally any creator so that they can kind of be out in the market. I'm really impressed that you picked up on the fact that that's not the kind of sponsorship we run. Looking at our other sponsored ads and the fact that we run with fewer creators on a more consistent basis, you're totally correct about that. We're direct response focused. So we're looking for partners that are driving sales. And then when we identify those folks, we're working with the same partner over and over and over again until basically it's no longer driving revenue. So like, it was really cool to see that you piece that together just from our existing content. And I think that that's really valuable, obviously, because you're able to pitch to a brand to cater to what their needs are. But I feel like also on the creator side, I have to imagine sometimes a brand's goals don't really align with what you enjoy doing. So I feel like if you can figure out earlier on as a creator, like, oh, maybe their brand KPIs aren't really in alignment with the kind of content I like to produce, I would much rather do like new product launch or brand awareness than I would do like a direct response partnership. I think that's valuable to figure out. So the fact that you piece that together just from like our past sponsorship history, I was like, oh, love to see it. Another thing that really stood out to me kind of on that same vein was in your media kit, you had the recommendation from your previous partner at Visit Fresco. And that even included the estimated media value that you generated from that partnership. And as I mentioned, since we're direct response focused, I feel like the biggest thing we're looking at and one of the biggest indicators of success is a past sponsorship history, especially with renewals from different brands. The one thing that we really don't have access into and that we can ask a creator but not really always assess is like how much revenue or like what kind of performance did you have for the past sponsors in your history. So it was really, really helpful to see that and be like, okay, not only did you work with this, with this brand or like on this partnership that spoke so highly of you, they actually gave an exact impact of the work that you did. So that's really helpful for us. That's like a huge vote of confidence. And instead of wondering, oh, like what could this perform like? I'm just like, okay, great. We've already seen how things can pan out with other brands. So really loved that. Just kind of a small detail. And also that in your media kit, you mentioned specific cities. Increasingly, brands are doing a lot of location-based campaigns. I think that makes a lot of sense for, in your case, since you're in the travel space and you were doing so many kind of like Texas-focused campaigns, especially at the beginning, it makes sense to reference the cities. But one thing that we've been really struggling with is when we're trying to source creators for a location-based campaign, it's not always easy to find that information. So when you're presenting that right off the bat, I have to say that's going to be something that more and more I think creators should lean into is like be geographically specific in all of your pitches, because that just makes it so easy to be discovered on the brand side. I really don't have like negative feedback at all. I think one thing that I would have been interested to see is helpful to see sometimes is rate card or just rate listed in the media kit. I feel like there's kind of two sides to it. I understand why some creators wouldn't include it in their initial outreach, just because I feel like sometimes that can send the wrong tone. And I definitely feel like not including it in the email body is a good call. You don't necessarily need to lead with that and be like, I want to work with you and here's what you would need to pay me. But I think that sometimes having that in the media kit is helpful, because if we're looking at different kinds of content and how we could be working together, it's helpful to know that right off the bat. But again, that's not a blanket statement for everyone. I think especially if you're, like if your rates are very specific to the kinds of content you create, be intentional about that. But that is one thing. And then this isn't even really feedback on what you put together here, because I think the pitch was so strong. But I guess like when we're thinking about next steps, follow-ups, there's a lot of different ways to approach them. But one thing on the brand side is like, this is such a lovely pitch email. And sometimes even the loveliest pitches are ruined by like very aggressive follow-ups. I don't think that would ever be the case here, but like, I feel like a rule of thumb that Ava and I like to follow is like space it out by at least a week. no more than 2 times in a given month. But if you don't hear back from a brand after that kind of time period, don't be afraid to revisit after a couple months and just be like, hey, just popping up again, expressing interest again, because maybe you caught us at the wrong time. Inboxes were crazy at that point. But a few months down the line, that kind of respectful touch base and being like, hey, I'm still very interested in working with your brand. But I would just say, like, keeping feedback or keeping follow-up spaced out a little bit so that it's not just like every 3 days, hey, would you like to work together yet? Because I feel like that, is not a good use of the creator's time. And also sometimes it kind of bogs down our inbox. But obviously that's pivoting from the pitch a little bit because the pitch itself was so strong. There really is not a lot to say there.
That's such incredibly nuanced, detailed feedback. It's got my wheels turning thinking about like location-based stuff. Like I think from the platform perspective, we're always thinking about globally, like, oh no, you're targeting by niche or, by like the personality, like, what kind of content do they cover? Are they married? Like whatever. So I love thinking about that. I also feel like maybe some creators should do some A/B testing as far as like, for certain brands, like, is it useful to drop a link and have the email be as short as possible versus kind of bulleting out some of those top stats that you would put in a media kit, that kind of thing. But let's turn it over to Johanna. What do you think? How do you feel about all of this?
I want to just second every like takeaway thing that Taylor said, specifically have your location in your bio. I hear this all the time from agency people that this is such a pain point that they're searching for talent specifically in an area. A new store is opening, product line's expanding there, it's a new restaurant. And talent is missed because they don't have their location in the bio. So like, I cannot stress that enough. If you have, 3 takeaways from this workshop, please have that be one of them. I think a couple of the other big takeaways that Jessica did really well is that you have to research this. This isn't a like, hey, I want to work with Helix. I'm going to fire off an email and like hope for the best. The amount of success that you're setting yourself up for is really how much work are you willing to put in on the front end. And you may be saying, oh my God, Jessica did all this research and the ads and the YouTubes and like sleep reviews, and I would never do that. And that's fine. You do your version of that, but you need to do some version of like, hey, I've done my research and I have a sense of like what the brand is, where it's at, maybe what they're marketing, campaigns and initiatives and goals are currently looking like, or I've seen, campaigns trending. I've seen an uptick in Instagram content. Like I'd love to hop on that train, but you have to be able to show and do some sort of research and then speak to like, where the brand is at. Because if you hadn't done that research, and let's say you came in strong and you're like, I got TikTok, I got Insta, and they're like, thanks, we're really only focused on YouTube right now. Like, what a miss. Whereas taking 5-10 minutes even just to Google to get that bit of information would go a long way. The other thing to consider is that there is so much competition. Both Ava and Taylor have mentioned it multiple times that they get lots of inquiries in their inbox daily, weekly, monthly, and then the follow-ups layered onto that. When you are pitching, I always try and put myself, or when I'm sending whatever important email, I always try and put myself into the receiver, like literally sleep on it, no pun intended because this is a mattress conversation, but like, Jessica referenced sleep on it, but also sleep on it, kind of come back with fresh eyes. And then I try and look at it as like, okay, if I were to receive this, what would this be like? And kind of switch my perspective, because then I'm able to see like, oh my God, that's so much like it's so many words. Like there's no paragraph breaks. There's no links. Every sentence is I, me. That's great to talk about what you bring to the table, but you do need to tie it into like, and this is the brand's goals, and this is how I could help serve you. Because at the end of the day, the brand is picking partners to further more sales, more ROI, and to increase their bottom line. Like that's just fact. So you have to be able to take your personal approach and angle on what you bring to the table, but fold it into what you learn about, kind of like the campaign goals and where they're at. A couple times it was referenced how Jessica stood out with her studying across specific content ideas of what she could do. Find a way to stand out. Do not just send an email that says, I'm your number 1 fan. I can't wait to work with you. I'm so excited. This is how much it costs. And I want Helix. Like, I'm moving, in 5 days, like, can you send me a mattress? There's in that competition space, like you have got to find a way to really stand out. Is it a really crafty hook at the beginning? Is it your content idea? Is it your numbers? It doesn't have to be all of those, but think about what it would take. Is it a catchy email subject? Like maybe even that's what it is. But find some way to ensure that you stand out. And at the end of the day, two takeaways for people that may be like, and I've seen a couple chats, comments that people are like, oh my God, I don't have all this information, or perhaps it seems overwhelming, is this is not personal. This is never, ugh, I love Jessica's pitch, but I hate Jessica. Or like, ugh, I hate her content. Like, if someone doesn't get back to you, they choose not to partner with you, or they say, hey, can we revisit this in 3, 6 months, 12 months? It's never personal, like ever. And so just to remember that it is just, Ava and Taylor looking at this through their marketing goals, and you may be the best fit and match and collab partner in your mind. But if you just don't do YouTube, you're not going to be a partner, quite possibly. And that's, again, nothing personal. So sometimes you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. So learning how to not take it personally will serve you very well in this industry. Being persistent, as I think it was Ava mentioned, like maybe it was Taylor, sorry, but lovingly follow up. Like, don't be aggressive, don't be obnoxious. A week in our world is like 24 hours in their world of how many inbound pitches they have and receive. And then the last thing is just this pitching is a dynamic process. How you pitch now when you're first starting and you don't have any paid brand collabs yet, compared to Jessica, who is an incredibly successful multi-six-figure brand collab partner with multiple streams of revenue and income and incredibly established in her niche, are going to look very different. And Jessica's pitch earlier on, or even a year ago, compared to 2 years ago, would have looked very different. So it's very dynamic. Send that first pitch, sleep on it, because inevitably you're going to see a typo and some edit and like a wrong link. That just is Murphy's Law. But look at yours, like you're going to be constantly tweaking it. It's not static, like make edits, you get feedback, have a couple different templates of what you can use and work with for, just always to ensure that it's the best fit.
Absolutely. Amazing takeaways. I love this. I hope people are like taking screenshots, taking notes. It's looking from the chat like folks are eating this up, which is awesome, as they should be. And before we actually get into the Q&A section, if you have questions that you haven't already put in the Q&A, please feel free to add them in now. If we don't get to all of them, which we probably won't, we will follow up with future content, like we'll do a blog post summarizing. And we also use these questions sometimes as prompts for like full blog posts and stuff. So feel free to pick our brains, put them all there, and we will do our best to address them as quickly as possible. So before we get into that, it sounds like everybody's loving this, which I love to hear. Everybody's like, this is amazing. This is a good match. So what would the next step look like? I'm assuming Taylor and Ava, something would be coming from your side saying, hey, we loved your pitch. What would your next call to action be for her? Would you be sending her some sort of scope of work? Would you be asking for more info? Like kind of what comes next?
Yeah, those are great questions, Olivia. I think once, the outreach email has been sent and we kind of have an understanding of like what the creator has in mind and if they'd be a good fit, typically then we like to kind of work to nail down the logistics and the details of the partnership. So just figuring out kind of like the scope and the deliverables of the campaign. For example, kind of going back to what people have said before, we do a lot of YouTube partnerships. And with that, there's a lot of details that need to be hammered out just in terms of how long integration is with the creator, where that placement is in the YouTube video. Does it come at does it start at the very beginning of the video? Does it pick up in the middle? Is it at the end of the video? What date the video is going to go live? And of course, to what rate a creator is willing to work with us at, or if they're working with us for product. And then from there, we do kind of the more boring and tedious end of things, which is just kind of working through contract negotiations to make sure that all of those details are captured on a contract and to make sure the agreed upon terms really serve the brand and the influencer in a really great way and set us up for success with the partnership. So yeah, that's what kind of next steps would typically look like from our end.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think it's time for us to address some of the questions that are coming in the Q&A. Here's kind of an interesting one. What would you do? I guess this is probably more for Jessica and Johanna. What would you do if a brand voiced that they wanted to work with you, but then they ghost you? Like, what do you do with that?
I'll chime in. Yeah. I just lovingly follow up. Like, to me, it's not ghosting, because most of the time they're like, oh, so sorry, we were gonna have a brand meeting about it, but someone got sick, so the meeting got bumped a week, or whatever, life happens. And so kind of what I was saying before, like a week's on this end, we're like, oh my God, we haven't heard. We just had the most perfect pitch and we're so excited. I get response from emails 3, 4, 6 months ago. I had some guy call me 2 years after I emailed him, as if I literally just emailed him yesterday. So really I just say, like, what is time? Don't take it personally, and just like lovingly follow up in the cadence that was suggested, and then just put them on your list to follow back up like next quarter. And sometimes I even say, hey, I've had this pending. We're really excited about it. Just curious if you have any updates. Should I take it off my pending list? Do you want me to circle back in a month? Like, kind of, and most people are like, oh yeah, so sorry, come back in a week, or we're just about to decide on it. Like, I'll let you know on Wednesday or something.
Yeah, I would say I used to follow the 3 email rule. I think I do sometimes follow the 4 or 5 email rule now, just because everyone's inboxes are loaded. And so I think I can get away with a little bit more emails. But after the 3rd email, usually the 3rd email is kind of like this one where I'm trying to make it very simple, of giving them the opportunity to say no, which is kind of funny. It's like the psychology thing I learned. Is this not a good time? Or like, is this something you're not interested in? They go like, no, I am interested. It's just not a good time, or something like that. And then that allows them to do it, or giving them like an easy answer, right? Like, I just threw a lot of information at them that's different than their typical campaign. So they're probably having to spend more time thinking about their limited budget that they have. If that even works, doesn't matter how good the pitch is, it's not their typical thing. They have a limited budget. So giving them an opportunity to make like an easy answer, to get that response back, because they're like, yeah, we're interested, but now they're like having to work through details that they haven't had to work through before.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it also kind of circles back to what Johanna was saying about, like, you can't take things personally, and they're not personal. You don't know, like, somebody might have left the company, like they might have restructured. There might be they might be in the process of being acquired. Like, you never really know what's happening behind the scenes that might be impacting you, like, way, way downstream. And like Johanna said, like, sometimes you'll hear years later, like, oh my gosh, yeah, actually, let's make that happen. So unless there is like a very firm, like, absolutely not, never again, something like that, which I think is pretty rare, that door isn't closed. And to the same point, employees change. And so maybe somebody new will come onto the scene, who absolutely loves the idea of collaborating, has the budget, and is ready to go. So don't like get discouraged. Don't let that like really weigh you down. You have to keep going and keep trying new things, and staying optimistic and open to opportunity. There's a very interesting question here. Jessica, you specifically laid out why you are requesting an actual like fee, like being compensated financially and not just in product gifting for this particular collab. And that's your standard pitch. But this person is asking, what do you do if the brand responds and say, hey, we'd love to collaborate with you, but we don't have a budget to pay you a flat fee? Would you go back, especially for something like this where it's a higher price point item, and be like, well, I might be interested in product gifting? Or would you say, I'm not interested in that until a flat fee is in play? How would you respond?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I want to get paid, right? I think that's the best option. I think that's also the best option for the brand, because again, I can show it off multiple times. But if I am looking for a mattress, so I don't need a new mattress right now, but I am considering upgrading the mattresses in our house. So in that case, it's a good fit. It's a decent fit. Like, I'm not going to go out right now and spend money on the mattresses. So I'm not saving money. right now by working with them, but it is a good thing. And then I also think the lift for the project can be very easy. I've had mattress companies reach out to me before in the past when I had like this dingy apartment, and it's like, man, I'm not going to be able to create the content. Like all I've got is like a nightstand on a like a cardboard box. Like I can't even shoot anything good for them. It's going to look horrible. Like this is too stressful for me to create content. All these different things that come into place. But now I feel like it'll be very easy. I can show the mattress in something that's aesthetically appealing. Just considering maybe what other projects I have going on, where things might be a good fit or what's kind of worth the trade value, essentially. And then again, yeah, building that relationship if it does work.
Can I chime in, Olivia, and just add to that? I often hear from creators who are like, oh, it's trade. I'm not doing it. Like my content's valuable. I must be paid. And I would just say to that, like, it is a case by case basis, as Jessica outlined. Like, don't cut off your nose to spite your face and be so committed to like, oh, I'm only worthy of paid collabs. Think about how you can think past that one-term partnership and how you may be able to leverage the content. And if you think about it as like, okay, so I'm not going to get paid for this, but it is a high price point, so I wouldn't pay out for it. I'm not necessarily like dying for new mattresses. It would be a great opportunity, but my audience, right? Like, how can I make this a value add to position it as I continue to be the expert of solidifying that space for my creators, because I know I travel a ton. So like, it's so important for me to want to sleep in my own bed. I sleep on a bunch of different mattresses. Think about like the value add that you can do to your audience, because that is going to pay dividends down the road for continuing to build trust and authenticity with your community and future partnerships. Like, it's so many things are just such a long-term play. And I think if you think short-term about it, it's like, well, it's mattress for pay or bust. Like, you're doing yourself and your community a disservice.
I love that. And I think this particular discussion, we didn't touch on that a lot, but thinking about how these partnerships, these relationships, all of the downstream effects of building these kind of relationships impact your viewers, your followers, the people that are bought into you, who love you, who genuinely want to see more of what you've already done. Whether you decide to feature a mattress that you received or not, like that all has direct impact on them and can have an impact on how you're perceived, your personal brand, your affinity with your viewership. So that should always be in the back of the mind and of your mind and informing the decisions that you make. And, you know, so I love that we touched on that. Another question here. Somebody wanted to know how long it took you, Jessica, to do all of this research. And I think there's a kind of an interesting add-on question to that of like, how would you, if I didn't introduce you to Ava and Taylor, how would you go about finding the right person to hit up at Helix or any other brand that you're trying to pitch?
Yeah, so it took me 2 hours. And it could have taken me a lot less time, of course, if I was already familiar with the brand, had seen the ad somewhere else, and had more context. But like for this case, it literally was just like brand I'd never heard of before, which usually you don't do. But I guess if I was looking for mattresses, right, I'd probably start with my like top three dream mattress companies, and then maybe slowly work my way down. But then you also get much better at it. The other thing is, so looking for contacts, typically what I like to do is I like to search up Helix Sleep influencer, Helix Sleep mattress, Helix Sleep marketing manager on LinkedIn, and then use like an email finding tool to look for that. I think that's like a whole process on its own. After that, I'm sending an Instagram DM if I don't get anywhere to them. But my first chance is try to see if I can find the email online.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend too. I think LinkedIn is your friend, although sometimes it's not 100% up to date. But you definitely have to, there is an art to it. But once you kind of look and see what the titles look like, then you can pair titles that tend to have something to do with influencer marketing with the brand name, you know, use your quotes and your plus sign in a Google search. scrape LinkedIn, and definitely use one of those email tools. Basically, sometimes they'll pull the email addresses for you, but sometimes it'll just validate for you the format, whether it's first initial last name or first name dot last name, whatever it is at that URL. So I think we're pretty much out of time here, unless any of you have anything else you'd like to say before we close out. Open forum. Going once, going twice.
I'll answer some really quick 5-second speed answers. NDA, I don't think you need an NDA unless you're doing something really complicated, but I don't think you get into that in the beginning. I get so much stuff stolen from me anyways, them putting in mattress in there, someone's gonna steal that from me at some point. Subject line, I did try to, I didn't put this in there, but I want something catchy that still mentions partnership, again, just to catch their eyes. And then if they don't and then for collabs, okay, so if you are trying to build collabs, I think one of the best things you can do is focus on your content. I also think platforms like Impact are great because you can start with an affiliate. This is where you spend a lot of time digging into 2 or 3 brands that you naturally love, and you just promote the heck out of them, and you collect that affiliate income, and then you go to those brands that did that, you connect with them through Impact, and you also use that data. The other thing that you can do yourself is create your own products, so you learn what creates sales, and then work with smaller brands. So you could work, you could try forever trying to reach out to Starbucks, or you could find a local coffee brand that's local, and you're not going to get the same budget when they work out, but you can do a lot more opportunities to do that, and they're also going to appreciate a lot more. Starbucks doesn't notice when you post them, but I promise you that little coffee shop that you post once a week loves you, and is going, and if you keep showing results, they're willing to take a risk on you. So really quick answers.
No, 100%. And that's a good way for you to build. I saw a couple questions in there about how do I land my first brand? We're going to do more webinars like this where we'll dive into those topics in deeper, deeper context. But that is a great place to start in your local community with businesses. Once you build a little bit of clout, you get one under your belt, then you have the analytics and you have the proof points to ladder up and up to bigger brands and eventually land your dream collab. So with that being said, this has been incredible. Thank you to all of our amazing panelists. You all gave such incredible insights. I feel like I learned some stuff. I hope everybody in the audience did as well. For those of you who are curious, we did record this. We will post it on our website. It usually takes us a week or two to kind of get it edited and then posted, but it will be available so you can refer back to it. And for folks who weren't able to attend live, it will be available. So fret not, we'll send that out once we have it. Again, thank you for joining today. And with that, I'm going to say so long. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day. And hopefully we'll be seeing you soon. Take care.